and welcome to the Movies Past and Present podcast. It's March 15th, 2022, and this is episode 83. I'm your host, Stanford Clark, and I'm podcasting from the crossroads of the West in beautiful Salt Lake City, Utah. Just like my blog, moviespastandpresent.com, I'll be providing recommendations, commentary, and reviews about current and classic cinema. Thanks for tuning in, and let's do this thing. I've got 3 reviews for you this week of new films that are either available in theaters or on streaming. First up is The Batman. This opened up a couple weeks ago, so sorry to be slow. This is another reboot of the Batman character from DC Comics, of course, and this film was produced at Warner Brothers. It's directed by Matt Reeves. And, first maybe just a little Batman history. Batman, of course, as I mentioned, is a DC Comics superhero character appearing in comic books. Batman made his comic book debut in March of 1939. And, as we know, he's just one of the most popular and pervasive comic book characters of all time. And regarding Batman's appearance in live action TV and movies, there was the classic 1960s Batman television show that I remember loving as a kid that starred Adam West. Batman made his feature film debut in 1989. This Batman was played in that film by Michael Keaton. And, of course, the movie was just called Batman, directed by Tim Burton. Tim Burton also directed a sequel called Batman Returns in 1992. And, again, Michael Keaton played Batman. Michelle Pfeiffer was in it. She played Catwoman. So, of course, I love that because, I love Michelle Pfeiffer. And Danny DeVito was in it playing the Penguin. Then Warner Brothers just kept making Batman movies. With different directors and different actors. Val Kilmer played Batman in 1995. The film was called Batman Forever. As you may recall, George Clooney played Batman in 1997. In what's probably regarded as like the worst of the Batman movies. It's called Batman and Robin. I just remember it being really bad. So, would love to hear from you if and get your opinion on some of these films. I think the Batman movies took a really interesting and overall quite a positive turn starting in 2005 with what's known as the Dark Knight trilogy. But Christian Bale played Batman. And so there was a film Batman Begins, then there was the Dark Knight, and then the Dark Knight Rises. I think the best one, and although it was super dark and scary, The Dark Knight, I thought was a very good film. Then Ben Affleck got hired to play Batman in, I guess what they're referring to as the DC Extended Universe. And so he played Batman in that. And I got to tell you, I think this is even worse than George Clooney's turn as Batman. It was Batman v Superman. And what a horrible film that was. But that led up to Batman appearing in Warner Brothers' Justice League movie. And then, that Justice League movie got released in theaters. And then it got recut again by the director in Zack Snyder's Justice League that got put on HBO Max. Anyway, it goes on and on. Now here we are in 2022. We've got a new director and a new Batman with Robert Pattinson. Now, is there such a thing as Batman fatigue? And I do think there is such a thing as Batman fatigue. I kind of had it going into this movie. I wasn't just thrilled to go see this movie, but I went and did, because I can be kind of slutty in that in that regard. And so here are some thoughts. So this film is, it's another reboot. We've got a brand new cast. Robert Pattinson is playing the dual role of both Batman and the reclusive billionaire Bruce Wayne. And then the supporting characters are all being played by different people. Catwoman is in this film again. She's played by Zoe Kravitz. The Jeffrey Wright plays Commissioner Gordon, the police commissioner that Batman is always working with. Alfred, who is Batman or / Bruce Wayne's kind of butler and caregiver, in this film is played by Andy Serkis. And then the villains in this, there are, the primary villain is the Riddler, and he's played by Paul Dano. Also, the Penguin is in this one too. He's played by Colin Farrell, and you wouldn't even recognize Colin Farrell. He's they put him in a fat suit and did all sorts of stuff, all sorts of makeup and stuff on him. And so we've got all these different characters. Again, same characters within the Batman cast of characters, but just all played by different people. I thought that the film had some interesting visuals. Gotham City, who wants to live there? My goodness, that place, it's just, the sun never shines. And in this movie, it also rains all the time. So, I thought that the visual design of the city was interesting in that they made it look like a kind of a combination of Manhattan and Chicago. So that part I liked. But wow, most of the places they showed are they're just horrible looking. And again, it's just so dark. And clearly we know that's intentional, but anyway, there you have it. I thought Robert Pattinson was fine as Batman. I think, frankly, he got hired because he has such a distinct jawline, and so his head looked really good in the bat helmet. But when he was playing Bruce Wayne, I thought they made some weird choices. They just made him look kind of like emo or goth. He reminded me of Robert Smith from the band The Cure. So I was just thinking Boys Don't Cry in my head, or It's Friday, I'm in Love, whatever Cure song you could think of. I thought that was almost just kind of funny. It just didn't, I didn't think he was great as Bruce Wayne. He was definitely better. Definitely better as Batman. Maybe that was the point. I don't know. One of the things that I thought was really interesting about this film that I can't say that I liked was that Batman was always on the scene of the crime, hanging out with Commissioner Gordon and with all of the policemen and detectives that are gathering evidence. And Batman was just part of the team, and he was always going back and looking at the evidence and whatnot. And it just seems so weird to me to have Batman on the crime scene. It seems like he should be brooding somewhere else or doing some other thing. Because he was just talking to the detectives and the policemen as if he was just one of them. And again, maybe that's the point, but it seemed kind of weird. I did like the art direction. I liked the production design. I think overall, though, my major complaint is the length. I mean, the film is 3 hours long. And, after about 2 hours of being in that pitch black place, that's kind of frustrating. There was a hint of romance, clearly, between Batman and Catwoman. And that was one of the few interesting things. I wish they explored that a little more. and I'll keep this spoiler free, I did appreciate that Batman has a bit of a character arc in this film. He actually like goes through some changes, and I thought that was interesting rather than just Batman being Batman. But still, for me, it was way too long, too grim. I mean, the Riddler is just a horrible, messed up person. So it kind of just felt like this was Batman CSI or CSI Batman again, because Batman's hanging out with all the detectives and with all the evidence, but also you get inside the Riddler's head, and it's just a horrible, messy place because he's just a horrible, messed up, individual. And again, that's probably the point, but it just felt more true crime instead of Batman. So I just didn't love the Batman, but I think that it's resonating with audiences. It's been making money, and I hope Batman fans like it. That's probably the main thing. I can't say that I'm necessarily a huge Batman fan, and again, as I expressed at the beginning of the review, I've got some Batman fatigue because they just Warner Brothers just reboots this, I think, way too much. So anyway, there's the Batman, still playing in theaters. If you want to go, check it out. Next up is a film that's available exclusively on Disney Plus, the Disney streaming service. It's Turning Red. This is the latest feature animated film from Pixar Animation Studios. A touch of controversy with this film being on Disney Plus. It originally was scheduled to be to play in theaters, and I think when Omicron was really wreaking havoc in November and December, Pixar, Disney had to make the decision of to keep it in theaters and market it that way, or to put it exclusively on Disney Plus, or even to do some kind of a hybrid thing like they've done in the past. They opted to put it exclusively on Disney Plus. So I know animation fans and Pixar fans were lamenting the fact that they wanted to see a Pixar film on the big screen, and in a way I would agree, because Soul and Luca and now Turning Red, the last three Pixar films, because of the pandemic, all got put on Disney Plus. One thing I've appreciated, though, is that Disney didn't do an upcharge for it. They just made it part of the service. My thought is, and again, I don't know, but I wonder if these Pixar films are a subscription driver at Disney Plus, that people, it will make them maybe want to go subscribe to the service, because these Pixar films are these original Pixar films are making their debut on Disney Plus. Not in those conversations, but I was just happy to be able to see the film. Hopefully someday I'll get to see Soul and Luca and Turning Red on the big screen, because that's my favorite way to watch movies. But I was still happy to see it on Disney Plus. One thing too, though, that I wondered, and again, I'm not in these conversations. All three of these films, Soul and Luca and Turning Red, have been a bit unusual. Not necessarily, mainstream type stuff. And that's one of the things I love about Pixar. I feel like that they take a few more risks, I think, than other animation houses do. But I wondered if that was a factor too, because Turning Red is really kind of a weird movie, as I'm gonna get into here now. But again, would of course welcome any insights or any knowledge you've got about this. Turning Red is a comedy about a 13-year-old girl who is Chinese Canadian, who lives in Toronto, Canada, with her parents, and she starts turning into a giant red panda whenever she gets too excited or too emotional. And so this movie, I'm calling it Pixar's puberty movie. It's literally a movie about with this little girl. She's hitting puberty, and so this red panda is I think representative of a lot of different things. It's representative of her budding sexuality, of her menstrual cycle, of her desire to start being a more independent person. And the thing about this character too is that she's got an incredibly dominating mother who is very well intended, but the mother's domination is something. These characters are interesting. I thought that Mei Lin, the main teenage girl, she's a girl who wants to be good. Her main goal and the thing that brings her much joy in her life is having a positive relationship with her parents. She's an only child, but she loves them, and she wants to, she's been taught this way, but she wants to do the family proud. And she like just loves to help her mother. They operate a temple, and people can go to this temple and visit the temple. And there's a lot of this red panda imagery, and it turns out that this actually is a big thing in her family. That when the young women in this family hit puberty, they have the same thing where they turn into a giant red panda. And there's this when they get too excited, and there's a ceremony that can happen in order to extricate the panda from the girl. And I'll try to keep this as spoiler free as possible. But that's that's kind of the setup. Mei Lin also though she's got this devotion to her parents, but she also has got friends at school, and she's got these three girlfriends who I thought that their friends were great. I love how they were portrayed, and one of the things that these girls love is this boy band, and so that's just kind of fun. This movie is set in 2002, which I think is when the director, who is also a Chinese Canadian woman, where she grew up. So in a way, this film is she's got. It's based, in an environment that she grew up in. But so this girl's conflicted because she's got her friends that are trying to pull her, not in bad directions, but you know how it is when you're that age. There's just stuff going on with your friends, and then of course her parents who are trying to keep her within certain limits too. So I thought that this was actually a really fascinating film. It took me into a different place, within a different mindset. And while particularly in the third act, kind of all hell breaks loose, I thought in a weird and funny and interesting way. It's probably not a movie that's going to necessarily appeal to everybody. I know that the stuff about puberty and menstruation and whatnot, and even just starting to get a bit of a sex drive, is not necessarily the fodder of a classic family film. Also, the stuff with the pandas is just kind of wacky. So that is what it is. And then also, a film with a real dominating mother. Frankly, I wonder if some of that's a bit triggering for folks who maybe had to grow up with that, or or just don't like that necessarily type of story. Because again, the mother's not like mean or evil or anything. She's just extremely opinionated and very demanding. But then again, cute Mei Lin, she really wants to obey her mother. But then also, other things are going on with her, and she's got she's turning into this giant panda. She's got to figure things out. So I was quite delighted with Turning Red. I thought Turning Red I thought it had just absolutely terrific animation. Again, from the wizards at Pixar. It's quite cartoony, but I mean that in the best sense of the word. Just again, the way that the characters move. I love everything about their faces and their giant mouths and all this stuff. I just think there's so much that I loved about the look of the film, and I thought that thematically it was very interesting. I liked a post I saw, and I'll put it on in the podcast notes on my blog. But the director, whose name is Domi Shi, she posted to Instagram, and basically she just was thanking people for their response to her, what she calls her beautiful and weird movie. So anyway, that is Turning Red, now streaming on Disney Plus. The last review that I just want to go over briefly is a film on Netflix. It's called The Adam Project, and this is a sci-fi time travel movie that is directed by Sean Levy. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. I'm gonna go with Levy. And it has a great cast. This film stars Ryan Reynolds, Mark Ruffalo, Zoe Saldana, Jennifer Garner, and Catherine Keener. And basically the plot is the Ryan Reynolds character. He's time traveling because he has to. I think he's trying to save the world and be noble. But he gets injured, and he goes back in time to visit himself when he was 12 years old, and he's able to go. So this adult character played by Ryan Reynolds, and then his 12-year-old self, who's played by an actor named Walker Scobell, go on this adventure to save the world. One of the things that I think is so appealing about it is this great cast. That the parents of Ryan Reynolds, and of course and his 12-year-old self, are played by Mark Ruffalo and Jennifer Garner. As I mentioned, that they're in this, and they play husband and wife. And Mark Ruffalo is this genius scientist who helps invent this time travel stuff. Catherine Keener plays, she's in a dual role. She played, because again, they've got, with this time travel stuff, these characters played different versions of themselves within a different time period. Who goes from just kind of a sweet and noble scientist into an evil megalomaniac. So there's that going on. And then Zoe Saldana, she plays the wife of the adult Ryan Reynolds, who's also involved in this time travel stuff. It's there's a lot of science fiction stuff going on, lots of battles, lots of coming in and out of these different time zones and things. And it's an appealing movie. It's again, good actors. Time travel, I think, can be such a fun construct. There's so much things going on. This isn't really. I don't. Maybe it could be compared to like Back to the Future or something like that, but it. Not really. I think it's a little more. I think they're going for relationships here. There's a lot going on as the adult Ryan Reynolds is dealing with his parents, and I won't provide any spoilers about that. But I didn't think that the script was necessarily just great. I liked the relationships and I appreciated it, but I often feel, as I do with many of these things that I've seen on Netflix, is that the movies are passable, but they're not just great. And some of them, are. But this is just one of those I thought was enjoyable, and this great cast elevates it. But I just didn't think it was that compelling of a story, and maybe a little bit manipulative the way that they were handling it, meaning manipulative of emotions. And again, that's what they're trying to do, because ultimately at its core, it's kind of a family drama. But anyway, I thought that the Adam Project was just okay, not terrible, but not just brilliant. But again, if you got some time, just to hang out and watch some Netflix, there are worse things you could watch. All right. A quick reminder, and you might not be hearing this in time, on Thursday, on St. Patrick's Day, Thursday, March 17th. One of the great movie love stories is going to be playing on the big screen. It's The Quiet Man, which is the classic film starring John Wayne and Maureen O'Hara. John Wayne plays a retired American boxer who returns to the village of his birth in 1920s Ireland, where he falls for a spirited redhead who's played by Maureen O'Hara. One of the challenges they've got involved is that Maureen O'Hara's brother, the character's brother, is very contemptuous of this union. But it's directed by John Ford. This is part of the Turner Classic Movies Big Screen Classic series. So it's, I think, definitely worth checking out. If you can't get to the theater on Thursday, March 17th, it might be one to find and to watch, because The Quiet Man is just a brilliant film. Tickets and more information can be found at fathomevents.com/TCM, and I'll have a link in the podcast notes on my blog to that site. One final note, it's Oscar season. The Oscars television broadcast is going to be on Sunday, March 27th this year, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. It's going to be on ABC. And of course, they have a very active presence on social media. So you can find, I'll have links in the podcast notes on my blog to where you can find information about the Oscar, the nominees, in case you want to fill out a ballot for yourself, and then, for fun, and then also about where you can find their social media content. Also, just as a heads up, to check your local listings to see if your local movie theaters are playing Oscar-nominated films. So, again, in our market here in Salt Lake City, Cinemark is doing their Oscar Movie Week Festival Pass. For $35, you can experience all 10 Best Picture nominees, and they give you a deal where you can get 50% off any size of popcorn. So, the one challenging thing with that Cinemark Pass is that some of the screenings are during the day. So that's going to be a bit of a challenge for me because, I have a job. And so I might not be able to do that, but still that's great. I also noticed, and I'll provide a link in the podcast notes too, that the Megaplex theater chain, which is also here in Salt Lake City in the state of Utah, they are showing some of these award-nominated films, and they've got different times over the next few days. So check your local listings and your theater chains. They might be providing something like this, and it's a great way to see these Oscar-nominated films. I still have got, if I'm not mistaken, 3 left to see. So we'll see how that goes, and I will keep you posted. One final note is that Turner Classic Movies, throughout the month of March, is doing their 31 Days of Oscar programming, and it's just basically a month-long showcase of films recognized by the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. This year, TCM is celebrating what they're calling the winners, where each of the featured films across all 31 days has won an Oscar in some category or another. One also interesting addition that TCM is doing this year is that they're partnering again with HBO Max, and every day they're highlighting a film on HBO Max with exclusive extras and other bonus content. So if you have HBO Max, check out the classics curated by TCM Hub, and you'll be able to find these Oscar-winning films again every day that have some cool extras. I know, for example, they showed Dr. Zhivago on HBO Max, and they included some interesting interviews with Omar Sharif and other people who are involved in the making of the film that you wouldn't necessarily see on the TCM network. So it's just another bonus of HBO Max. So anyway, TCM's 31 Days of Oscar goes through the month of March, and again, the Oscars broadcast is going to be on Sunday, March 27th on ABC. Well, that does it for this episode of the Movies Past and Present podcast. Again, links and more information about the movies discussed in today's podcast can be found in the podcast notes on my blog at moviespastandpresent.com. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Stitcher. Links are also on the blog. And follow me on Instagram. My handle is @moviespap, as in past and present. As always, I hope you'll enjoy some good movies this week, whether they be from the past or the present. Thanks for listening, and until next time, be safe out there and dedicate yourself to the truth.